Thousand God of all. You have made all creation, yet you breathe on us, and you love us like a brother, like a father, like a friend. Teach us, make us ready, Lord. Make us ready, my heart and flesh cries out for you, the living God. Your spirit's water to my soul. I've tasted and I've seen. Come once again to me. I will draw near to you. I will draw near to you. Better is one day. Better is one day. Better is one day in your course. and thousands elsewhere. Thank you, Lord. I was reminded this week that worship, as we call it, with the music and singing, isn't all that is worship. Obedience, sacrifice, kindness, being obedient to the word. But what struck me again was that worship, it punches a hole in the darkness. It creates a grace, and darkness does not have a place as we worship him, and not just in song. But I would encourage you to sing, not just because I like to hear you, though I love to hear you, but because it makes a change. And if you don't like people to see you, just close your eyes. I do it all the time. It works. So, there you have it. There's the gospel, according to me. Of our love lives and follows. Come now and move among us. What you did before, oh, come and do once more. We want to be a part of your story. Same verse. God of our mothers and fathers, come now and move among us. What you did before, Lord, come and do once more. We want to be a part of your story. God of our mothers and fathers, show your glory. Show your glory to your sons and daughters. What you were back then, Lord, come and be again. We want to see your power in our friends and in our time. And in our day, come and move in this place. Oh, in our time, in our day, come and move in this place. Come and move. give you permission. You are welcome. Come and move. Come and move. Move, God, in this place. God of our mothers and fathers, send your spirit just like you promised. Oh, you can have your way. Come visit us today. We want to see your power in our presence and in our time and in our day. Come and move in this place, in our time, in our day. Come and move in this place. Come and move. Come and move. Come and move in this place. That sounds beautiful, church. Come and move. Come and move. In this place. Come and have your way, Lord. Come and have your way. Come and have your way, Lord. your heart. Give God permission. Just give him permission to do whatever he wants in your life. Lord, we give you permission to do whatever you're doing, whatever it looks like, whatever you want to do to us. We thank you that you heal, Lord, and that you're steadfast and faithful, but we give you permission to do anything else. Come into the darkest places in our life, Lord, and reveal them, Lord. Heal them.
Yeah, so we've been singing this song for about three plus years. It was introduced to us in 2019. And when I first sang this song, the imagery that conjured in my mind and what I was hoping for and asking for was images of the beginning of the vineyard, right? Like gymnasiums packed with people, signs and wonders being poured out. And I suspect probably that's what the authors of the song had in mind in some way. And over the last 3 years, we've had a global pandemic. Our house burnt down. Like, none of what I was hoping for when we first sang that song has come to pass so far in the way that I thought it was and would. But this morning, and I think I've talked about this song just about every time we've sung it, but God is on it, I believe. This morning I felt like God was reminding me that He's the God of my mothers and fathers, and that doesn't go back to the beginning of the vineyard, that goes back to Jeremiah. That goes back to Daniel. That goes back to Peter. It's a way longer lineage, and in that He's like, I've been reading this book called The Prophetic Imagination over the last couple weeks, and it's one of the points that it really draws out is Yahweh is the free God. And that's good news, but it's bad news, because it means that we don't get to say, hey, God, come and move in this way. When we say come and move, we've got to let him be free to move. And so if he wants to tear down the whole empire, as he did when he showed up in Moses' time, that's what's going to happen. And if he wants to radically rearrange his church, that's what's going to happen. He's the free God. He's not the God that we control. He's the God that we follow, and we try to understand what's going on, and we try to step into alignment with his will. So I would challenge us to sing it again, sing the chorus again, if you're willing to, with that reality in mind. It's like, come and move, God. But we're stepping into a long, long lineage of wild people following a wild and free God, not just some little snapshot of culture.
And in our time, and in our day, come and move in this place. In our time now, in our day, come and move in this place. Come and move,
And the good news in that is that it's better to have a free God that's actually God, not the God of our own inventions, that's doing what he needs to do to bring freedom, to continue to expand his kingdom of faith, hope, love, righteousness, all of those things, the rule of God. It's better to have that happening regardless of what it looks like in the short term. Because the alternative is we worship the gods of our own creation, which means we have to protect them. Like there's the story of Gideon, right? He tears down the altar of Baal, and what happens? What happens in that story? The townspeople basically show up at his door and are ready to kill him. When we're finding ourselves needing to violently defend our God, he's probably not a real God. That's all bonus material, people.
I'm struggling.
What? With the earpiece? That never happens.
Never.
Here, let me help.
I think I got it now. If I move my head, it might come off, but yeah, thank you, Roger and Bob, leading us in the heart of worship this morning.
Truly.
So we have a couple of announcements. The first one is that the highway cleanup that was supposed to happen today, we've postponed it, right, till next Sunday? Next Sunday, same time, which I believe was
Before
1 o'clock at the Salashan Marketplace. So we don't want to be in the atmospheric river today.
Nice.
Thank you. It's been the catchphrase all weekend. What's the other announcement, Tim?
2 weeks from now is our last Sunday at Coast Vineyard.
Yes.
As opposed to the 27th, which is what we said originally, but we realized that conflicted with people's Thanksgiving plans. So we're going to have a potluck on the 20th. Katrina and Gayleen and Ariana are leading it. We're not. But so if you have questions, ask them. But plan on coming and having we'll have lunch together afterwards, and we'll also, in addition to it being our last Sunday, we'll actually be installing Katrina as interim lead pastor and handing her the churro, which, if you wonder what that means, we'll explain it later. How you guys doing?
Good.
Did I just make the whole room really heavy with my probably?
Yeah, okay. We're for you.
Yes. Thank you. So I just want to stop a minute. I had this picture. We regularly watch The Office through over and over and over and over again. But we just watched the one where Jim and Pam get married and they're on their way. And one of the things they do is they stop and they take mental pictures of their special memories, you know. So today I'm I'm going to do a panel. Taking a mental picture to remember. How I've seen the glory of God in you guys.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so a lot of you probably know this. Some of you knew Diora the cat. But for those of you that didn't, a few years back, we had this cat. Her name was Diora. And we actually got her several years ago because we got her when Ariana, our oldest, was still in high school. Were you a junior or a senior?
I was a senior.
She was a senior.
She was
Okay.
a Secret Santa gift.
Right. So now you're giving away my
So I'm
story.
sorry.
Yeah, so no, I tease. Yeah, so this is exactly, she was a Secret Santa gift. So how it went from my perspective was I get this call from one of Ariana's high school friends. And she's like, hey, would it be okay if we got Ariana a cat for Christmas? And my immediate reaction was,
Tim doesn't
what?
like cats, just so you know. He doesn't really like cats.
Yes. So my immediate reaction was what any sane human would have, which was absolutely not. That's a horrible idea. Why would you think that? But at the same time I'm thinking, well, my teenage daughter would actually probably really like that. And this girl's obviously into it and thinking it would be a good idea. So what ended up coming out was like something along the lines of, sure, that would be great. And I don't remember, did I check with you first? Did I give the out of like, well, let me check with Lisa first, or did I just approve it on the spot?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Normally I run those kind of things by Lisa, but I might have not that time.
I'm a cat person, and he knew it.
Yeah, and so I think the official advertising line for this cat from the adoption shelter was that she was like, what, 2 to 3 years old? And had never had kittens. This is the marketing like tagline, kind of like this car's only driven 99 miles, and you go and look at it, and it's obviously been wrecked 3 times. And the speedometer's been rolled back. Well, that was basically Diora. Diora shows up, right? And I mean, 3 days after she shows up and actually comes out from underneath the couch and starts to walk around, she's like walking like she's 101, and her belly's like hanging down to the floor and like swinging side to side. She's clearly had like at least 7 litters of kittens. And Diora was a cat, man. Like she was something else. Like she wouldn't groom herself. She like constantly kind of looked like she'd been rolling around in the dustbin, and she's kind of disheveled, and I don't remember, did her breath smell bad when she first showed up, or was that later in life?
I don't remember.
It was always bad. It was like death.
But, and then the kind of the strangest thing about Diora, and there is a point to this story. The strangest thing about Diora is once she kind of like settled down and started to get, comfortable with the family, she would be like, and this took quite a while to wear, because obviously in addition to being a little older than they advertised, she had a bit of a wild life, I suspect. Like, I don't think her life had been an easy one. And so it took her a while to settle down, and when she did settle down and she would be being pet by one of the family members, she would like start really soaking up the love, and then she would start this like wheezing coughing. And it's really well done.
Thank you.
And she wasn't hacking up a hairball because she didn't groom herself, right? So like that wasn't it. It was like this, like she was like self-sabotaging. She really was. And it would happen like over and over and over again. This cat would be fine, and somebody would start loving on it and be like, rah! It's the only time it would happen. So we did like some deliverance work with it and prayed over it. Didn't really seem to take. It continued to do that in the short term. But over time, that cat became a transformed cat. I would like to say that like she picked up good grooming habits and like everything became transformed, but it's the already and the not yet, and Diora experienced some of the not yet. But she also, and you can think I'm crazy, and that's okay. But I'm telling you, that cat, its second half of its life with us was a different cat than the first half of its life with us. And you could ascribe it to like the power of love, and that would be part true. But I'm here to tell you, it's more than that. There was an element of Diora being transformed because of the presence of God in just a home. And I don't say that as like it was something special because we're the pastors, right? Like that when I would catch that cat, like, oh, one of its favorite things was like it would go in the litter box, but it would put its head in the litter box rather than its back.
It's
So
really
in moments
amazing
like that,
he
like
didn't
I
kill
was
it.
not loving that cat well, let me tell you, I can guarantee you. But despite my shortcomings as a cat lover, that cat, like the second half of its life, like that whole like hacking, wheezing thing, it wouldn't really happen.
No.
Like it could receive love without having something like rebel inside of it. And I think in that she became like this funky little witness to the reality of transformation that comes in the presence of God. And this, being the last Sunday that we are going to deliver a message as the lead pastors of Coast Vineyard, just felt like, man, if there's one thing that made us sign up, right? Like
One thing.
it's that. It's getting to experience the goodness of God and the transformation that comes with it. Right? Like 16 years ago, showing up in this church, really hurting, really needing something a lot more spiritually substantive than what we had experienced to that point, and finding it here. Finding it in community with you guys and a whole bunch of people that are scattered all across the globe now, really, right? We love transformation. I think we as human beings love transformation, right? I think that's why like the Fix It Up shows are so popular on, like the fix and flip shows. But there's nothing more exciting than seeing, like as cool as it is to see a physical space, a structure transformed, brought into order, brought into beauty. That pales in comparison to that something along those lines occurring in a human being, right? And the spectrum of how that looks is wide, right? Like, it can look like my favorite Holy Spirit power story from our time in this church is you praying for somebody that I think only came 1 or 2 weeks, right? But had needle tracks in her arms, right? And they went away right there on the spot. So that's cool, right? That's cool. And equally cool is the slow, steady fits and starts, right? It's not a linear thing. It's not like it's not like the ongoing transformation of the Spirit in our lives looks like that straight line up, right? It actually, I know Gillian's got a straight line on this. So there's parts that are like that, but there's a whole lot of the other of it, right? Like that is the walk of faith, and yet to see that in ourselves and in you as a community over time, like that's the stuff, right? That's the stuff. That is that is the stuff that honestly, even as we move on from this assignment, causes us to be like, yeah, I think we still want to be lashed to the mast of word and sacrament, to borrow Eugene Peterson's imagery of being called to ministry. So, with all of that, we thought we would reflect just a little bit from our current perspective on that transformation of us as people. And I don't mean that as in like, we're not going to just reflect on Tim and Lisa's transformation. What it looks like and how we might continue to lean into the transformation of God as we go along. And the text for the morning is from 2 Corinthians, and we first grabbed 3:18, but then we went back and we grabbed 3:7 through 18. So, you ready?
Sure. Now, if the ministry that brought death, which was engraved in letters on stone, came with glory, so that the Israelites could not look steadily at the face of Moses because of its glory, transitory though it was, will not the ministry of the Spirit be even more glorious? If the ministry that brought condemnation was glorious, how much more glorious is the ministry that brings righteousness? For what was glorious had no glory now in comparison with the surpassing glory. And if what was transitory came with glory, how much greater is the glory of that which lasts? Therefore, since we have such a hope, we are very bold. We are not like Moses, who would put a veil over his face to prevent the Israelites from seeing the end of what was passing away. But their minds were made dull, for to this day the same veil remains when the old covenant is read. It has not been removed, because only in Christ is it taken away. Even to this day, when Moses is read, a veil covers their hearts. But whenever anyone turns to the Lord, the veil is taken away. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. And we all, who with unveiled faces contemplate the Lord's glory, are being transformed into his image with ever increasing glory, which comes from the Lord, who is the Spirit.
So, obviously we picked that because it holds the answer of